Thank you, Katherine Terrell from The Athletic, for joining me today. Kind of a perfect time to talk about this with the Saints finally adding a franchise tag to Marcus Williams. Was this a surprise, a shock, given what they're up against right now with the cap?
I was surprised. There's actually an initial report on Tuesday morning that they wouldn't use it, which made sense. It makes sense to use it if it's any other team. I mean, it's only $10 million. So any team with cap space, to me, yeah, it's a no-brainer. But the Saints, I feel like, made a last-minute decision to use it, which is why the initial report may have been incorrect because they're so up against the cap. This makes them about $60 million over before they make a bunch of restructures and release players. But I think that they probably did it because it's kind of a placeholder. They can take the tag off at any time. It kind of shows Marcus Williams he's the priority for re-signing this spring. And I mean, it's just, it's a placeholder until they get a deal done, which I'm sure is imminent if they think that they can squeeze this under the cap. But hey, that's the Saints. They're always surprising us, right?
Right. And how important does this now make it out to be to other teams? They care about Marcus Williams and they want to have him on this team. I know he was a big part of that 2017 draft class. Is it kind of affirmed to him that how much the Saints want to make sure he stays in New Orleans?
Oh, definitely, because they could have gone the other way and made Trey Hendrickson a priority re-signing. And I think Marcus Williams has had a kind of a long journey with the Saints, even if in these short 4 years. But I think in the last year, he's really proven himself to be this kind of key piece of the puzzle. Honestly, if you had asked me in August if they would have tagged Marcus Williams, I would have said no. I just didn't think at the time that he was there yet. But I think he's really come a long way, and they have literally no safety depth after him. Not like if you go look at the Saints roster on the website, it's him and it's Malcolm Jenkins, and that's about it. So that's the other thing. I mean, if they let him go, I don't know who would step up in his place.
And a lot of things people don't realize is we don't just get this list, right, of what the cap space actually looks like. Everyone is having to kind of guess, take the numbers down, and try and stay up with it. So you believe they are now 60 million still under that they've got to achieve?
Yeah. That it's kind of an estimate.
Okay.
It's 60 million if it was about 180 million. I mean, I've been trying. I was texting people trying to get a sense of if teams really knew about what the salary cap would be. They have a general idea. Like usually they get a window. It's usually a $10 million window. But I just told someone around the league today, I said, it's like budgeting when you have no budget. And he said, oh, you prepare for the worst. So we're not worried about it. I don't know if that's true, but I think teams are in a way used to this, but nothing like this. You're usually not this close to free agency and still trying to figure this out. So I thought when I saw all of the players being tagged that it meant, hey, teams know now, but that does not appear to be the case. So I guess everyone just sits and waits, right?
Right. And based on what the Saints have faced in the past, is this one of the more challenging off seasons Mickey Loomis is going to have when it comes to trying to deal with this cap?
I think so. I've actually done a lot of research kind of going back through the years, and there have been years where they came in, maybe 20 million over or whatever. It's never been 100 million over. I mean, the Saints had this kind of grand plan that they keep pushing everything back until Breeze retires. And if things had gone as we thought they would, they probably would have timed that perfectly. You keep pushing back until Breeze retires and the new TV deals kick in. Next year are going to be the new TV deals. So you thought, hey, 2020, it's going to go up 10 million. 2021, maybe exponentially. So, I mean, the pandemic is one thing they couldn't account for. So, I mean, now they do have to make some hard decisions, maybe not as many as people think, but I think Thomas Morstead is a casualty of that. I think if they'd had more cap space, they wouldn't have had to go find a punter last summer and try to kind of make him the next guy. I think maybe a guy like Malcolm Brown could be a cap casualty and he wouldn't be another year. So, I mean, yeah, there'll be some hard decisions, but most of the decisions are the ones they have to make every year.
Right. And some of those hard decisions I think we'll hear in the next few weeks. Do you think a guy like Emmanuel Sanders will also fall under that?
I think so, possibly. At the beginning of the offseason, I didn't think so. I think they kind of showed they have almost no depth after Michael Thomas. I mean, you have some guys with potential, and you have guys like Deontay Harris who are really brilliant when they're playing, but he does have a lot of injury history, and they can't put him on the field for every play just, because of his size and the injury history. So you kind of got to pick your spots with him. And Traquan Smith at times is great, and at times he kind of disappears. So you need something more. And I thought Sanders was that guy. I thought that he actually performed really well when he needed to. But, I mean, that $10 million cap hit kind of looms large. And when you look at what happened to Jared Cook and his steep decline, they could be worrying that Sanders is going to decline like that in his mid-30s. So I'd be on the lookout for that as well.
Who do you think, I guess, and of course this is all still up in the air, but who do you think is going to be someone that's going to be hard to hold on to, but that they are going to try to get that done in the next few weeks?
Trey Hendrickson comes to mind, but I think he's a guy who's just going to take whatever team offers him the most money. I mean, I think sometimes guys are kind of set on that, and teams love to throw money at pass rushers because they're so hard to find. If he goes out and there's no market for him, I think the Saints would love to have him back. The other one, kind of in the opposite direction, is Jameis Winston. I think everyone talks about him like it's a foregone conclusion that he's coming back. But, I mean, I don't think that's the case. I think it's likely when you look at the market and if teams are going to be looking for quarterbacks, but I wouldn't say it's cut and dry because he might be looking for more money this time than he was last year.
How do you think all of this directly impacts how aggressive they're going to be in the draft as well?
Well, I mean, it's a tough draft. Right now, they only have 4 draft picks. They're going to get another one for Terry Fontenot leaving. That'd be a 3rd-round compensatory pick. I'm not sure off the top of my head if they'd be in line to get any other compensatory picks. But, I mean, they've traded and wheeled and dealed so much that they really don't have much draft capital. So that's going to be interesting because this is a team that loves to move up. As for what they might look for, I mean, I could see honest any position except maybe running back unless it's like a late-round guy. But even a quarterback, I mean, that would be interesting, right? 1st-round quarterback, that would create some I don't want to say controversy. There'd probably be no controversy if Brees isn't around, but it sure makes for some interesting training camp reports.
How much does all of this, or does Drew Brees not announcing his retirement yet, kind of affect all of this? I know it has to be putting a headache as far as, Mickey Loomis. I know he mentioned last week that regardless, Drew Brees is their guy, but they believe he's going to retire. Do you think that is having any effects on how they're trying to manage the cap?
No, I don't think so, because I think he and the team are on the same page. I think that he wouldn't have just cut his salary to the minimum for no reason. I mean, I truly believe that. If he came back, I would be really shocked because they can spend it all they want, but players just don't do that. I mean, Brees has always wanted to be compensated fairly, and the league minimum for a future Hall of Fame quarterback is not it. Now, I'm sure they could tell you, well, we could just redo it, and sure, I guess that's true, but how do you redo the contract when the team goes and spends in free agency and then doesn't have any money left? To me, it's a sign that they're on the same page, and yet for some reason, he hasn't announced it yet. I mean, it is interesting because if I was a free agent, I certainly would be wondering what the deal is. But if you're trying to sign a guy like Jameis Winston, I mean, I would assume that they would inform him. I mean, of course, this is all my opinion, but hey, we've never experienced anything like this, right? Like, even Peyton Manning had already retired by this point in March when he left the game. So this is definitely clock is ticking.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for the Saints to finally name their guy, who they want as a quarterback. Do they go after a guy in the draft? Do they keep Winston? Do they let the Jameis Taysom battle continue? I mean, how do they handle it from here?
Well, I think in an ideal world, you re-sign Jameis Winston for some sort of modest deal, some sort of 1-year prove-it deal. You take them both to camp. This is, I almost said Tamus. This is Taysom's last year on his contract as well. So you basically just say, hey, may the best man win. And if you get in a position to draft a player, you do that. I mean, it's a little harder at the end of the 1st round, but it's possible. I mean, Brees wasn't at the top of the 1st round either, and he turned out okay. But I think they just kind of have to reassure Jameis that it's not a situation like last year where they go into camp and Taysom had already been promised the backup job, and it kind of felt like no matter what Jameis did, he wasn't winning that job. So I would just want it to be an open competition.
And just lastly, how do you see this all unfolding? I know a lot of people that have covered the Saints for a while, you being one of them. It's almost this trust in Mickey Loomis that he's going to get it done. You know, they're going to find a way to make it work. But do you think, given this year and the amount of money that they have to somehow come up with, are they going to have a team that can contend for a Super Bowl at the end of this?
I think so, because when you look at the players that are cap casualties potentially, I don't see anyone that would be like a make or break player except Breeze. I know that Breeze didn't play well in his last game, but I think that people are forgetting he actually played pretty darn well leading up to that, considering the man had like 11 cracked ribs, and they're gonna miss him. Not only, I know I'm talking about him like he's already retired. Let's just say hypothetically, if he's not there this year, I think they're going to miss his leadership. They're going to miss the fact that he can run the 2-minute drill better than anyone. And I mean, it's going to be a struggle to not have a Hall of Fame quarterback. And yet, for the past 2 years, I've watched this team play without Breeze and find ways to win as a team. So it might not be, they can surprise me. I say right now it might not be a Super Bowl team, but I think it's a contender. I think that it's a well-rounded team, and they'll probably surprise people, but it's going to be tough to get to the Super Bowl when you don't have a guy like Drew Brees, if you don't have him.